Hello networkers, and in this video I want to give a summary / review of Game of Thrones since it is officially concluded. Now the very first thing that I will say is this. I'll make this very short and simple. There have been a lot of things online about season 8, and some of it I have not been reading. I don't have time for all of that. But there's a lot of loud language of people who just hate season 8. They want to do a redo, a makeover of that season. Look, this is really about a difference of opinions. Different things that we may want to see in a movie, or in this case, a television series. It should really be about having respectful opinions and not entitlements. Now, before I give my particular review of season 8, I do want to make a quick kind of recap of all the different seasons. A few bullet points of what I liked or didn't like, I guess, or the shocks of each season. So I did not watch Game of Thrones until season 4. So that meant that for that summer, I saw season 1, 2, and 3. So season 1 I thought was a great introduction. I loved the characters being introduced. I also liked, or I was kind of shocked of how bold they were with the beheading of Ned Stark. I wasn't expecting that. An A-lister starring actor dying. That was something I never expected, and I was very curious of where the story was going to go next. Then we get to season 2, and for me, a difference of opinions, I really did not like season 2. I thought it was pretty boring, and I didn't really care about what was going on. But episode 9, the Battle of Blackwater Bay, I think it was, that was very interesting, and I liked that episode a lot, and was curious of what's going to happen in season 3. I really enjoyed season 3. But when we got to episode 9, The Red Wedding, I never read the books, so I was completely surprised by what happened. I felt very uncomfortable to the point that I do not watch that scene again. And for me, it was like, when are the good guys going to finally come up and triumph? I loved that season, but it was like, whoa, what's going to happen? Plus, I think in episode 10 of that season, Jon Snow was shot up with arrows, like he was going to also be killed. So it really kind of put things really in fast motion of what's going to happen. So I was really invested in Game of Thrones at that point. Season 4 was another great season, probably my best season up to that point. And mainly because people were being held accountable. I loved the Purple Wedding, that Joffrey was finally killed. Finally, he was a bad person that deserved what was coming for him. Tywin being killed in a very unprofessional, classy way. I liked that. I liked that a lot. The battle in the pit with, I guess, since Tyrion he requested trial by combat, and he had someone fight on his behalf with the mountain. That was a great scene. I had problems with that, but from storytelling, I was okay with that. Season 4 was definitely a fantastic season for me. Then we get to season 5, and this for me really showcased Jon Snow. Jon Snow is my favorite character in the whole show. It was Ned Stark, but Jon Snow I really liked. I like Robb Stark, but he died at the Red Wedding. And I like Jon Snow because he really has values, integrity, being a good person, doing the right thing. So I really like that character a lot. Whale, he was assassinated at the end of that season. But I was really convinced. I said he is not dead because there are so many seeds that were planted for that character. So I was really angry, but I was thinking he's not dead. I think there's more to the story, and I have to see what happens in the next season. Whale, in season 6, he is brought back to life. So I was very happy. My favorite character is back, and he is now no longer part of the Night's Watch, which I thought was finally, let's move away from that and let's expand on that character. And that led to the Battle of the Bastards. My favorite episode in the entire series is that episode. I love that, especially how he was portrayed, the battle sequences. I simply love that episode, and that definitely was the highlight for that particular season. Okay, then we get to season 7, and this really was where things start to move along faster, which for me, difference of opinions, I was like, finally. I felt like the first 6 seasons, things were just moving so slow, and I'm like, let's pick it up here. And they finally did that in season 7. So I was really happy with that. Plus, I liked that many of these big characters are finally coming together, and I really, really like that. Then we get to the last season, season 8, and my opinions on that particular season. I want to try to keep this very short and simple and list some bullet points about it. I thought this was an okay season. I was happy because this is a conclusion to the story, whether you like it or not. There are some TV shows that do not get a conclusion. So I was happy that at least it is an ending of what's happening with these characters in the world that we have seen for the past 8 years. For me personally, I did not feel like it was rushed. I felt like it just moved along and a pace that makes sense. I prefer movies because I like to see a starting and an end to something that I'm watching. And for me, this has been like a story that has been told or been telling for the past 8 years. So I did not feel like it was rushed. The problems I probably would have is probably the 3rd episode, the Battle of Winterfell, or The Long Night was the title of that episode. For me, that one was more because it was too dark. Like, I wish it was lighter, but I understand it's a long night, so I'm fine with that. But it was, for me, it was too dark. And then the snowstorm coming in, I did not know what was going on. Yes, I expected Jon Snow to fight the Night King, but from a strategic perspective for the Night King, he was not going to win that battle with Jon Snow. So him rising the dead, that makes sense. Not good for storytelling or for a movie or for a TV show, but I get it. It makes sense. I was surprised who killed the Night King, Arya. But honestly, when that happened, I was just happy like finally this particular part of the story is concluded. Now, in terms of the actual ending or the last episode for Game of Thrones ever, the series finale, again, I was okay with that. I was probably more invested in what was going to happen with Jon because he is my favorite character. And maybe I wanted a better ending for him. But in reality, I think he did get a happy ending. That yes, you're going back to the Night's Watch, but there's nothing really to protect. So really, he and the wildlings venture off into the north, really as a sign that he gets to start a new life where he can have a family and things like that. That's really what I took from that. So I wanted maybe a happier ending where he is the king of everything. And that maybe he's the one that says, you know what, there's not going to be one capital controlling over other kingdoms. Each kingdom is going to be independent. And that each kingdom will have a vote on the decisions of the realm. That's what I thought was going to happen. But that's just what I would do if I was writing it, but it's not my story to tell. But I was okay with his ending. I just wanted to have a perfect ending for that particular character. In terms of Dany, there's a lot of backlash with that. So I'm going to keep this very, very minimal. For me personally, I've seen signs of her darkness since the very beginning of the first season. She has good intentions. I do believe that Dany wanted to do the right thing to liberate. That is true. But I believe that she had always harnessed a dark side. And one of the first things that I personally remember, okay, my opinion, was that when her brother was going to get killed, you know, a crown for a king, that's a really bad way to die. Yes, your brother's an asshole, I got that. But when she saw her brother, her flesh and blood being killed, and Jorah tells her, Khaleesi, look away. She said no. She's watching her brother get killed with a straight face, no emotion. Where Jon Snow, who gets stabbed by members of the Night's Watch, he's dead. He's brought back to life. Now he's going to hang them. There's a reserve of emotion, like he's conflicted with that. He's looking at Ollie. And he's like, I have to do this, but I really don't want to do it. But I have to do it. That's emotion. So that's something that I noticed with the first season about Dany and about her character and about her having her dark tendencies. I understand the arguments of people saying things like, well, it happened too fast. It didn't happen, for me, it did not happen too fast. I saw signs of this growing exponentially over the seasons, and after she lost Viserion, I think that just started to increase gradually, that people all around her were dying, so she snapped, and I think that's what happened with her torching King's Landing. Now, the one thing that I will say after watching the season finale for Game of Thrones is, when you watch a series finale, it's supposed to be a conclusion to the story, like it ends. That is not open-ended, or at least for me, I guess, right? So for me, I was watching this, and when it ended, I was like, there's more to the story that can be told at a later time. And I wonder if they did that on purpose. So for example, what happened to Drogon? He took the body of Daenerys and he flew off. Where did he go? What happens to her body? That sort of thing. So I think that there's more to that particular story, including Jon Snow. He goes up north to live a life among the wildlings and with Ghost, his direwolf. What's going to happen in his life there? You know, is he going to, get married and have a kid and have a family and be prosperous as wildlings slash, whatever, that group of people will become? What will happen next? What will happen with Arya when she travels west of Westeros? What's she going to see? Will that introduce a new threat? So that's something that's interesting. What's going to happen with Sansa up in the north, with her ruling independently compared to everyone else ruling together as the Six Kingdoms? Okay, so that's also something that's very interesting. King's Landing. Like, yes, we'll continue to rebuild, but I believe that there is much more to this particular story. It's not really a conclusion to Game of Thrones. I personally feel like, yeah, this particular chapter is concluded. I would not be surprised if 10 years later, there is a continuation, kind of like the new Star Wars films, that 10 years later, that we see where they are now. That maybe Arya comes back because now there's a new threat that's going on. Now they got to find Jon Snow, so they're doing that. And maybe Dany is not dead. Maybe there's some other stuff for your book readers. I have not read the books yet. I want to read them. So I think there is much more to this story. This is not a conclusion to Game of Thrones by far. It left too many open-ended things, and I think that there's more, and I'm thinking they just left the opening so that if they wanted to continue, they can. And that is it. That is my review of Game of Thrones, of what I liked, didn't like, and what I think will happen next with a revival, maybe 10 years from now, which is what Tyrion said to Jon. Hey, you never know what happens in 10 years. So that kind of left another opening that I wanted to bring up before. And that is it. So thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.